Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to Whatever I Feel Like Fridays, the vloggiest of my new daily vlogs that I've committed to, where I just talk about whatever's on my mind for the week. This week, for this first Friday, I wanted to touch on kind of the hiatus that I was on. I was definitely going through kind of like a lot of people after the election in November. I went through kind of a depression and malaise and just kind of a lethargy took over for a lot of my just day-to-day. Work got particularly hectic, and I got worn out by doing the daily writing, and all the power in the world to Alex, who still is keeping up with it. And if I had pulled back sooner and committed to writing but not publishing, I think I probably would have been able to do it, but I gave myself just a stricter set of goals, and it took a lot out of me trying to juggle work and the site and playing games to create content for the site, and it just was, yeah, it was taking a lot out of me, so I needed to kind of take some time away and figure out really what I wanted to do next. In the interim there, I got incredible opportunities. I got to do some freelance writing for IGN, which my first piece made it to the top of Reddit, which was insane and crazy and exciting. And then that caused big old panic attacks in me of like, well, it's all downhill from here. And I really only ended up writing a few things for IGN back in, when was that? September, October, November, something like that. Between the day job and wanting to produce my own content, taking the time out of my after hours to try and grab whatever little piecemeal bits of news for IGN, mixed in with all of the worn outness and everything, it just wasn't it wasn't where I wanted to put my focus, and I was scared. I was so close to kind of getting everything I wanted, and I just froze a little bit, was too scared to make the full commitment to say, okay, well, I've got this in now, I'm going to go ahead and drop other things so I could focus entirely on that, because it's a costly job, and if I were to get a position at IGN, one of my biggest fears has been that they offer me a position and I look at it and say, I can't do that for what you guys would be paying me. I can't pick up, move to San Francisco, and try and like set up a life out there for what I imagine most entry-level associate editors are making over there. And that's devastating. And then on top of that, I see people who I look up to getting let go at the site or leaving the site for other opportunities, and I've got a foot in the door, and that's amazing, and I got a screener call for a position I applied for back at the end of the year, closest I've ever gotten to kind of being in there, and it was really exciting, and I was freaking out at the prospect of picking up and going over there, and ultimately that position didn't go anywhere. I didn't make it to the next round of interviews or anything like that, and that as well probably led into a deeper depression of like, I was so close and still so far away. And so I just kind of, I stepped back and I kind of went a little bit more back to basics in terms of the content. I So I loved going to PAX South and PAX East and doing a lot of preview and written coverage. PAX East in particular, because I had the drive of working with or working kind of alongside all the Alex and all the guys at Irrational Passions. It was exciting to be sitting there in the media room and writing articles with one another. Trove Talk is definitely something that was taking a lot out of me, just in terms of it was a very long show, as I touched on in my my piece kind of at the beginning of the week, and I was getting frustrated with not being able to do more with it. The whole idea initially behind doing a weekly podcast, weekly show, was to try and better my my editing work, and I felt like I wasn't even getting to do that. I kind of plateaued and was keeping it pretty simplistic, of just kind of breaking up the video bit by bit, occasionally trying to do some very rudimentary, dropping out the audio from the YouTube thing and putting in the two channels from me and my guest. But even that often felt like I was just kind of going through the motions, and so I stepped away from that as well. And one of the trickiest pieces of Trove Talk is just scheduling with somebody kind of week in, week out, to try and say, hey, can we sit down and figure out, like, let's sit down for a few hours and chat. And with everything else going on in just kind of my day-to-day life, it was just becoming harder and harder to really find the time to commit to that. So it just made sense to kind of step away and figure out next steps of what I wanted to do for the site and in the industry as a whole. Like I said, if the fear was with IGN I couldn't make it work financially, what do I need to do to get myself to a place where I can? Part of that has been looking at positions outside of the industry, but in the vicinity out there, so I could maybe get over there and kind of get my bearings straight, and then just be around more to network and make those connections with the San Francisco community. And then there's been a component that said maybe I should try and go independent here and just kind of say I'm gonna settle down in Phoenix, gonna move out of this studio apartment that was in many ways a big step back for me in terms of like progressing on in life. I'd moved out into a house, and then I had to move back into a studio apartment, and that was certainly a mental blow as well. And so it sucks because I feel like I've been in limbo for a couple years now, where I don't want to invest in buying a house here in town, and then suddenly the dream job comes up and I drop everything and try and move. The reality of the situation is I was sitting there one day walking around PAX West, and this is a day or so after Andrew Goldfarb had offered me a freelance position, and I'm sitting there, one side of my body is saying like, yes, you're almost there, I'm so close I can taste it, and then the other side is, but what if I'm here for the next 5 years? And how long do I give it before I walk away? And it's not, there's a drive there, and I want to do it, and I feel like I can, but the pragmatist in me says there are a lot of other people in my same shoes. If people established in the industry are being let go, what do I have to bring to the table? What can I bring to the table? And it's terrifying. So ultimately, for the last couple months, I've been toying around with these ideas of I'm going to commit to kind of weekly series and figuring out what do I want to do on Mondays, what do I want to do on Tuesdays, what do I want to do on Wednesdays. I think there is a future in kind of building vlogging and streaming and stuff in the same kind of style as like the TV network format that we've grown accustomed to of your show is every week at this time. The successful Twitch streamers tend to be the ones that are doing regularly scheduled stuff. And so I looked at it and said, okay, well, if I wanted to walk away from everything and say, okay, I'm just going to stream full time, maybe I'll do a show on Mondays that is playing through my backlog, and then I'll do a show on Tuesdays that is playing multiplayer only games, and then Wednesdays focusing on indie games and stuff like that. And the reality of the situation is I don't have nearly the following to get me there yet. I thought about the idea of like doing a Patreon and stuff, but I don't think I have the cachet to try and really invest in that. And I certainly don't have the time to commit to sending out postcards or whatever if I did get people investing in tiers of a Patreon or anything. I don't feel Patreon is right for me right now because I feel like I don't have the perks to offer to people. I'm so glad I didn't try and do a Patreon because the ladies over at What's Good Games, Brittany and Steimer and Andrea Renee and Alexa Ray Correa, all of them, they are established. They have fan bases. They've been working in the industry professionally, and they launched, and so there was certainly no way that if I had launched as I did Sunday or Monday as I might have originally intended, there was no way that I'd be getting kind of any support there. So I recognize that, and even if I were to get Patreon support, I'm not going to get anywhere near enough to kind of pay my monthly bills. I can't do Patreon as a part-time thing. I've already got the full-time job, career thing, and then trying to do Trevor Trove as a part-time thing. Creating the content itself is the part-time job. I couldn't add doing all the Patreon maintenance and support work on top of that. But then ultimately I finally just said, I gotta do something again. I gotta get back on the horse. Video is the future of it, so I'm going to commit to doing video. I'm almost a week into it and committing to daily videos and Twitch streaming 3 days a week. And I haven't had time to cook this week. It's all been fast food because I'm spending half hour, 45 minutes talking into a camera, and then I'm spending another hour or so kind of editing it out and cleaning it up, and I've got the day job on top of that, and then I've got trying to keep up with the content. If I'm talking about wrestling, I need to watch the wrestling that I'm going to talk about. If I'm talking about TV, I need to watch the TV I'm talking about. If I'm doing movies, I need to watch the movies I'm talking about. Anime and comics coming up, I still need to do that, and that's what I'll be doing today, the day that this is airing. I'll be reading through some comics and watching some anime to talk about in a video to edit for Saturday. It's a part-time to full-time job just trying to do all this, but I needed to do something again. I love the idea of Don't Break the Chain. It kicked me in the ass and got me to where I was. And so I decided I wanted to do that again. So that's my hiatus and what led me to where I am now. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter @SnarkyStarky. And until tomorrow, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.